So it's another day here in sunny Britain, which it definitely isn't, but what we are going to do is take a look at how to bleed your brakes and how to flush them too. Now the reason you might want to do this is quite a few actually. If you just replaced your calipers or lines, you'll need to do it. Also, if you have a spongy brake pedal, spongy feel to it, which is something I have with my S4, then bleeding your brakes and flushing the fluid can be a very useful addition. Or it's just something that you should be doing every couple of years. It's probably in your service manual and as part of your service interval schedules, because brake fluid is hygroscopic and absorbs moisture and then makes it no good at being a compressible fluid, especially when you're adding a lot of pressure and heat into the system. So flushing your lines, bleeding your brakes is a really useful thing to do. In terms of tools you'll need, there isn't much. You do need to take the wheels off to get at the back of the brake calipers, and so you'll obviously need a trolley jack and tools to take your wheel off. But other than that, you want a bleeder kit. I have a really cheap one from Halfords that's £5 or £10, and is in theory a one-man kit, although in reality I'm still gonna get my partner to help me, and so you might want someone else to be able to help push the brake pedal while you're doing the bleeding. You also need a spanner to crack open the bleed nipples, and you might want some penetrating fluid, some shop rags, that kind of thing to clean stuff up, and you'll need the correct brake fluid for your car. In my case, .4 works just fine. For the vast majority of people, .4 will too. So without further ado, let's get into bleeding the brakes, and we're going to start by taking the wheel off. Now I didn't actually say which wheel you should take off. I'm using the front right wheel because that's the easiest one for me to show you today, but the general wisdom is to pick the wheel or the caliper that's furthest away from normally your ABS pump, as that's the thing that splits the one line from your brake master cylinder into the four for each wheel. Now, the process is the same for all of them, so let's take a look at this one. So the first thing you want to do is actually crack your bonnet, find your brake fluid reservoir and top it off. We're going to be pumping out a fair amount of fluid here, so it needs to be nice and full, and remember to top it up as we go along. Then you can find the bleed nipple. This should be covered with a small rubber dust cover. If it isn't, please replace it. It's really, really useful. But take the cover off, find out what spanner size you need to crack it open. In my case, it's an 11mm because apparently some things are actually 11mm. Then you can crack it open so that it's not tight as all hell. Cinch it back down, but not tightly, and then shove your tubing over the end. Once the tubing is on and the valve is shut, you can then have someone, whether that's yourself or a friend, pump the brake up and hold the pedal down. Once the pedal is being held down, you can then crack the bleeder open, a load of fluid should gush out, you can shut it, and repeat that a couple of times until you're happy that all of the fluid and air has been released. And it really is that simple. Just make sure that you tighten up the bleed nipple before you move on, shove the dust cover back on, and then you're good to stick the wheel on and go do the rest of your calipers. So with all four corners done, as long as you've got enough brake fluid, ideally between the min and max line left in your reservoir, you're pretty much set. A few words of warning: brake fluid is incredibly corrosive, nasty and toxic, so make sure that you clean up any that gets on your hands, on the ground, and especially any on your car, because it is terrible for paint. Otherwise, you might need to expect a fight with those bleed nipples, especially here in the UK. They tend to get pretty rusty relatively quickly, and so you might want to think about heating them up with a propane torch, for example, and removing them fully and replacing them before you bleed your brakes. And otherwise, that's pretty much it, really. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. If you want to see more videos like this one on a weekly basis, then check out that subscribe button with the bell notification icon, and check out some more videos over there too, maybe how to jack up your car, whatever else like that. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.